Can you ever prompt an AI tool so much that it creates content so good that you don't need a human? Hi, I'm Jaryd Krause. I am the host of the Buying Online Businesses podcast, and today I'm speaking with Steve Wiideman, who specializes in strategic planning for multi-location and franchise brands. Steve considers himself a scientist and a practitioner of local e-commerce, search engine optimization, and paid search advertising. He is the author of the SEO Strategy and Skills, a college textbook through Stukent. And Wiideman has personally played a role in inbound success of brands that have included, people like Disney, Linksys, Belkin, Public Storage, Honda, Skechers, Applebee's, IHOP, Dole, and so many others. Now, there's a reason people call him SEO Steve, because he is the man when it comes to SEO. Now, in this podcast episode, Steve and I specifically talk about why AI is so amazing and so many case studies that Steve's used and how I've used AI, and how you can use AI to create out of this world amazing content that actually ranks and pulls in amazing amounts of traffic. We talk about prompt engineering for quality content. We also talk about how to not use AI when creating content and using it in your business. The things that you can do wrong and how you can get hugely slapped in the face by Google for misusing AI in a way that's non-valuable for users. We also talk about why you still need humans in the AI freak out phase that you may be going on or be in by thinking about owning a business or being an online business owner already, and how you can settle your nerves and why you should settle your nerves for what's to come, because it's just making our world so much better. We also talk about how to allocate resources in terms of your money, specifically money and time, into content creation, using different ways that you can create content that outranks your competitors, like with competitive research. And Steve breaks down some actual ways that he's done this in the past and continues to do so. We also talk about site structuring, internal linking, how you can build more authority to each individual page. And we always talk about where Steve thinks AI is headed in this online landscape. So there's so much value in this podcast episode. I know you're absolutely going to love it. Let's go. What's up? This is Jaryd, and I am stoked to have you here. Before we dive into the show, I want to remind you that for a limited time, you can get one-to-one voice note mentoring with me to help you buy and grow your online business. I'm opening up just a few slots of voice note coaching to give you one-to-one access to me via CoachVox. You'll tell me your goals and challenges, and we'll work through them together. I'll ask questions, I'll tell you what I think, and we'll get you ticking boxes and achieving your online income goals. You can message me anytime, and I'll respond within 48 hours. Right now, you can get 20% off by using the coupon code JARYD, that's JARYD, and I'll drop the link in the show notes so you can find out more. Until then, let's get on with the episode. SEO Steve, you're back. Thanks for coming back on.
What's up, my friend? Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. You're on podcast episode 136. This is around 230, this podcast episode. So it's been almost 2 years because we released one.
Where do we find the time? It's amazing.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
So much fun. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. There's so much to dig into today. And I typically, our podcasts are around the half an hour range, and we've got an hour. And I did just get some feedback from some people saying that they want to know that they get to the end of the podcast episode and they're like, damn, let's get a bit more. There's more that we could have covered. So let's try and cover it all today. First and foremost,
let's do it.
This fear that has set in across the industry around AI. I think it's good. Mm-hmm. It's going to be good for us to just bring it up and talk about why we shouldn't be frantic around these AI changes in SEO. But where are you at? Sure. Let's just start this at a complete open, clean slate. Like, when people talk to you about AI, like what's your feelings and what are you normally speaking to them about?
AI, man, I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I'm kind of a nerd, right? I love any kind of change that transcends an industry. And I know there's a lot we'll talk about with concerns and what do we worry about. And but as somebody who's basically I've built my career and my life off of helping businesses to appear as often as possible for the right search terms to attract their target audiences. So with everything happening in the AI world and being able to automate a lot of things that used to take human manpower and critical thinking skills and research skills, and now being able to create prompts to automate a lot of that is really exciting stuff. You have two perspectives you can have, right? So you can have this fear mentality of, oh my God, the sky is falling, and panic and find a career that's less stressful, or you can embrace it and fall in love with it and master it and really, really kick the tires and enjoy the process. And if that even then at the end of the process you still don't find yourself on the other side and doing well, that's when you sit down and start to decide, hey, maybe it's time to look at something else. But you don't do it out the gate. You do it after you've embraced the change and done what you can to adapt to that change before you start hitting the panic button. And it's in many ways it's a sign of character, right? What kind of character do you have? Do you have a the fear mentality or the opportunity mentality? And right now my perspective is this is all really new and exciting, but that doesn't change my clients need to show up in search results. It doesn't change the restaurant chains need to scale to appear when their users or customers are searching for a burger restaurant near them. That's not going to change. What's going to change is our process and how we adapt to the way that people are going to search now, thanks to AI and under 200 or so developers that are working on Google's new search engine.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I don't think I'm nervous, but I think that might happen at some point when the new search engine launches. But you're going to find me red-eyed after a few days of really kicking the
Yeah.
tires to see what shows up and trying to understand why what's showing up is showing up. But my pulse is I'm excited. I think it's going to be a lot of really interesting things that are going to happen with
I
it.
love that you said that. The only one thing that's constant is change, right? And if you think
Yeah.
about your career in the SEO industry, it's always change, ever evolving. And
Oh
if
yeah.
you're gonna hold on to like, oh, it's changed, what am I gonna do now? And the fear around it, you're just gonna have a really tough time having a full
Yeah.
career in SEO or in
Oh.
online business in general, really, because the only thing that's
Hmm.
constant is change. And I think
Yeah.
where people get really worried is that something comes out and it gets floated, and then like, oh no, we thought we
Hmm.
had a set and forget approach. When reality is like
Yeah.
it's always constant change.
Not this
Yeah,
industry. Yeah, for
in this,
sure. SEOs who are listening to this, if you're an SEO practitioner and you have this kind of fear about, oh my God, what am I going to do? Now is the time to make sure your certifications in ads are up to date, because the one way you're still going to be able to see success as you're learning the new search ecosystem is through paid
mm,
ads. So you might have to take on some paid search clients for a little while until you've really cracked the code with how to make sure that your clients are doing what they can in organic search. So that would be something that I would do to give yourself a little peace of mind that you've got some financial stability as search evolves more than it has since the first search engine displayed blue text or blue links and black
yeah.
text. So that's something that you could do if you're in that kind of mode of, oh my God, what am I going to do? Just make sure you're up to date on all the new cool things that you can do in paid search. It's a completely different Google Ads than what it was when it was Google AdWords. It's completely different from 20 years ago when there was Overture and Yahoo ads. And learn it with a clean slate, with an open mind, as if this was a brand new way to
Mm.
advertise. Don't think with the old mentality of keywords. Go into it like a beginner, and I think you'll enjoy all the cool things that you can do now, and Performance Max, and neat little ways that you can use audiences. So I would make sure that on the paid side of search that you're up to speed. Start your own campaign for your own brand, so that you get acclimated to all the different ways that you can create campaigns, and you'll have a way to sort of survive through the change until you've mastered as an SEO in the AI SEO world.
Yeah, and especially for non SEOs that are listening to this, that own their own online businesses that get majority of their
Mm.
traffic from search. The reason that they would be worried is because they don't know how to operate in the new landscape that is coming. But the reality is, if you're an adaptable business owner, you're going to change anyway because you have to adapt it. And you are in the same, literally the same seat as everybody else that needs to learn it as well. So there's nobody that really has more advantage than you anyway, because you're hearing it about it at the same time and you get to use it
Yeah.
at the same time. If anything, it's a bit more exciting that you could be on the more cutting edge than people that are less adaptable, right?
Right. You know, the first thing I asked Bard was when I got access to it, I said, Bard, tell me how I would, as a client, I would want to, how I would rank my website in your search results. Are links still important, to show up in Bard? I started basically asking it algorithm questions, and Bard was happy to share answers. And that would be the place I would start right now, is go to
Yeah.
Bard and start asking those questions about the algorithm, how important links are, what are some ways I would show up, ask specific prompts, because the search engine engineers haven't gone into Bard to exclude answers to questions about how its algorithm works. So have some fun, ask questions, and Bard will tell you everything it knows. It's really not that complicated, and you're going to find that the change really isn't that significant. The principles are still the same. Have helpful, relevant, user-friendly content that's original, right?
Mm,
Don't just be unoriginal by taking AI and just dropping it on your page. Come up with helpful examples and videos and pictures and
mm.
things. Make sure that you're still earning links, from other websites, because those are still going to be important. There's still going to be a Google bot crawling the web, to look for new content. And make sure that when people do find your results in search, that your results are the most helpful, the most compelling, maybe the most entertaining in some cases, so that you're always the one that gets selected. And when the question comes up with, was this a helpful result, that users will always say, yes, this was a very helpful result. So pay attention to search experience, pay attention to off-page SEO signals, and continue to make sure that your pages are performing better and better and better every month, not just by bounce rates, but by conversion rates, and by the things that you pay attention to and how users interact with your content. As long as you're doing those three things and doing better at them every month, whether it's Bard or Bing Chat or whatever it happens to be, you're still going to be there. You're still going to be prominent. They're still going to see you as being a helpful result. And you won't have to worry about these changes. It's when you're complacent and you rest on your laurels and, and have that kind of fear mentality that things start to fall apart.
It's the same right now and the same as what it was 5 years ago and 10 years
Yeah.
ago. For a business or a blog that creates content, you just need to continue to create helpful content. That hasn't really changed.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a cliche and it's exhausting to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
SEOs. It's like, I can't just put content up and it'll just suddenly rank. You're right, it won't. You have to make sure you're using internal links to show the search engines that those pages are important. You have to make sure your brand is mentioned, in conjunction with those keywords on other websites, so that the co-occurrence of your name and the brand are prominent. You have to do offline advertising so that people are searching for you by name and including sometimes the keywords that you want to be semantic
Mm-hmm.
for. There's a lot of things that search engines are going to pay attention to, and as long as you're addressing all of those different areas, even just a little bit every month, you're going to be okay. You're going to get through, and in a year from now, you're going to be like, I'm glad we kept paying attention to those things every month, while our competitors decided to try some shady things to game the new search results. We did what Jim Rohn said. We do, ordinary things extraordinarily well. And that's all it really takes.
That's all it really takes is learning how, and everybody listening should know how to be a better business partner with Google or the search engine to give the search engine what it wants. And if you give them what it wants, you're going to give the users what it wants, and everybody's going to win rather than playing a game against your business partner. Imagine how long your relationship with your business partner would last. Just as long as the next Google update if you're playing games.
17 years ago, I was challenged with the task of ranking for the keyword SEO expert by my boss.
Mm,
And it was to show him that I understood search well enough that I could reasonably give enough confidence to the folks at Disney Parks and Resorts that my SEO skills were going to increase non-branded search results. And the funny thing was, at the time, no one is really searching for SEO expert. It wasn't that challenging of a
Mm.
keyword, to try to rank for. And I held it for some 12 years before, my peers said, hey, the reason you're not getting invited to events is they think you're bragging about being SEO expert. And I'm like, well, I kind of have to get people to search for me and use that phrase for me to be able to hold that position. And so eventually I said, you know what, I need to be a better part of my community. And
Mm.
I just killed the page
Mm.
altogether. And it was so worth it because I have so many great relationships now, because now the stigma of he thinks he's number one for SEO expert because he ranks number one for SEO experts gone. What I would want to rank for now, if I were, pivoting into the new world of chat and AI and large language models, is I would work on trying to rank for the keyword um, prompt
Yeah.
expert, chat prompt expert. You want to be a number one prompt expert in today's world of search.
Mm.
That's what I would try to rank for, and then I would practice what I preach and become a prompt
Mm.
expert. Study it and learn it, and look at all the different examples people are using. Create Chrome extensions with some of the prompts that you want to test with and templates you want to use, and just master it. To get some coffee, stay up till 1 a.m, for 2 or 3 weeks until you're just exhausted to death, and then give yourself a few days break and take a vacation. But become a prompt master, and you'll have confidence that you'll be able to leverage the right prompts to create the right content and SEO and other roadmaps to really use prompts as the catalyst to becoming better at what you do, and not what's going to replace your job, but what you're going to be using to improve your marketability in the marketplace.
Mic drop. So, like, I think, well, it's not that I think, but I know that that's just so damn juicy, because that is a philosophy that goes across all verticals of all life.
Yeah,
Prompting. If you think about what Tony Robbins says, he says the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. And
I love it.
I knew this when I started using Google to try and
Mhm.
find answers. If I worked out the more specific and the better the question it was, I would get a better answer. And that people already know that without even being business
Oh
owners,
yeah,
right? So it's already, if you adopt that philosophy that you should have in life, adopt it to using these chats and these AI softwares, you're going to get far better results in and out of your life, right?
absolutely. And you can have fun with it. Remember the movie Patch Adams with Robin
Yes.
Williams? Do you know how he was able to get through college? Is
Yes.
he had to make it fun and funny. And so one of the things that I did is part of the thing I do in my career is I do some public speaking, and some event coordinators will call me and say, hey, we've got a room full of private investigators that want to understand different ways that they can search Google to find information about people they're looking for, or things or facts and stuff that they're looking for. And I'm like, well, how do I make that fun? Am I just going to do a bunch of slides with search operators on it? And so what I ended up doing is I found a story. I said, here's a story. Rowan Atkinson was he was in an interview, and he got offended by a question that somebody asked, and he left and he disappeared. Now our job as the private investigator is to use Google search operators to find, one, if the information was true that he was being accused of in the interview, and two, to find out where he is so that we can interview him ourselves and find out from the source what was going on. And so I used those different slides as I talked through the search operators, and I went through every single search operator that you could use, and I included these funny stories and memes of Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean. And it was the funniest, coolest, neat, laughable presentation that kept people engaged because they didn't know what Mr. Bean was going to do
Mm-hmm.
next. But they also learned by using some of those search operators that were introduced in those slides. And some of them were shockers. Like I was able to do an in URL search for .gov, and then in quotes I put "not for public distribution," and I showed them all sorts of nuclear content that was not supposed to be in search results, but because the folks that were putting the information on the website didn't realize that website was getting crawled and indexed because they didn't understand search. All they understood was I put a piece of content on a website that was public, to the world, and to the private investigators. Like, oh my god, this is amazing. And so sometimes it becomes something that's not just funny and amusing, but in some cases, shock and awe. But that's my advice: is create a story, create a fun,
Mm-hmm.
engaging, goofy thing that you use, and then explore every possible way that you can get to that endpoint using the different ways that we can search now.
Yeah, and prompt engineering is going to help you get better stories. Last week, I decided, all right, I want to, and I've told this story before to a bunch of clients, that I wanted to use the ChatGPT to help me write some content, some emails. I
Mhm.
use my email, like my email for Bob, like like somebody
Uh-huh.
would use Instagram, because I don't really use Instagram that much. And I put
Yeah.
videos, well, not so much videos anymore, but like images and GIFs and stories about crazy stuff that happens in my life, like shark
Yeah.
attacks, crashes, all these different random things, falling down the Great Wall of China, and some
Oh,
wild
nice.
stories that I tie back into business and philosophies.
Mhm.
And the way I tell the stories is it's very junky. Like, I start the story in media res, like I start it like a James Bond movie, in the middle of the action, thick
Nice.
of it, get the people's attention, and then move into different parts and then break it up.
And then give them the
Yeah.
backstory, and yeah,
Then,
I
yeah,
love it.
afterwards,
That's
right?
awesome.
So I understand copy and I understand engagement and all that sort of stuff. Trying to get ChatGPT to do that is very hard if you don't understand prompt engineering, and you still need to put your spin on it. Like, these AI tools are
Mhm.
great because I think it helps prevent writer's block. That's the way I feel. It's like one of the best things.
Sure.
But then still taking it and putting the human element on it, because the human element is not yet replicable, I believe, in a way that
Mhm.
creates connection and awe and shock and stuff like that you can do through your content. Um,
And AI can't display video interviews of your customers talking about you, or before and after pictures of what you did for a client or a customer. It
yeah.
can't it can't really enhance your branding visually and what the experience is when they visit your
Mm.
page, versus just giving you a lot of text and maybe some ideas or video scripts to use to help build that. And it's you can actually say, read this article and then write a page with the same voice. I know you can actually have
Yeah.
it create a page using your writing style, but then again, you'd want to go back through and really look at, is this the message I'm trying to convey to my customer? And yeah, you can go back in and say, yeah, you didn't really hit it on the nail. Make it more compelling. Be more empathetic. Be more, and you can guide it to the place that you want it to get to, and then you're still going to read it and feel ucky and be like,
Hmm.
I don't know if this is really authentic. Let me draw some inspiration from what it's saying and kind of put it in my own words. Read it maybe 2 or 3 times, and then close it, and then write your own, with your own voice, and then go back in and say, edit this and remove any
Yeah.
typos and brevity and anything that it feels misleading or confusing. And then you'll see the output of that and go, okay, they just took my page and made it so much better, and I took their ideas and incorporated into what became my ultimate paper. So there's ways that machine works with human, who works with machine, who eventually has human write the final page. So I think there's a lot of that collaboration that can happen between us and these large language models to create amazing stuff. We don't have to feel like, if I use it, I'm cheating. No, use it. I use it. I wrote I don't know, some 30 meta descriptions for a healthcare client over the weekend because we had a team member
Mm.
out. And I'm like, I got us. I'm always covering for our team members, and I used ChatGPT to help me write some titles and meta descriptions, and I did end up touching up almost all of
Mm.
them. But I wrote the right prompts with, write a compelling, no, convincing. Write a convincing 160 character meta description for this client who offers this service, and I put, using empathy and making sure that we've addressed the intent of the target audience more so than the competition. And it took a few rounds, and do it again. Give me another example. Give me another example. Give me another until it finally got it. And I'm like, this is great. And I let it know, this is great. This is what I like. Now do it again for this keyword. Now do it again for this
Mm.
keyword. And within a few minutes, I'd literally written some 30 rows of titles and meta descriptions. And again, I did a little bit of my own editing and my own spin on it, and making sure the right keyword is used and removing the brand from titles that waste real estate. But I got what I wanted out of it, and it looked fantastic. And then we present to the client, and we say, here are some ideas for titles and meta descriptions that you could use. We encourage you to put your own voice on these, but this will give you some inspiration to start with. Or if you just want to start with them outright, please at least read them to make sure that that they're making the right statements and claims and so forth before you just deploy them. But this could be a good starting point for you. And if they come back later and like, yeah, I'm not really getting the click-through rates I want, great. Let's run some tests and do a few more. Give me 5 meta descriptions with different call to actions and different value propositions to see what we can do to get our click-through rates up. And I'm pretty sure Google's not going to penalize you for doing that, especially if you're getting higher click-through rates and users are getting the content they were looking for.
Yeah. By the way, those meta descriptions have been touched so many times by a human, not just
Yeah,
written, but also consciously thought about. Like, oh, maybe could we change it this little way? I like what you mentioned around get some good ideas, get it written, get your really good prompt engineering in place. Like, there's one really cool prompt that you mentioned, which is make this better than or more conveying or more valuable than my competitors. Really, really smart little
absolutely.
prompt that I heard when you mentioned that. And then take it away, shut it down, rewrite it in your own words.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
even like, I remember one of my mentors saying, write something one day, come back the next day and edit it because with fresh eyes,
Love
and
it.
then you can edit it and then, like you said, put it back in. And
Mhm.
you're right. It's a tool. It's a tool
Touch-ups.
that's like, it's an amazing tool. It's an amazing tool that we should use. And if everybody's using it, why would you not use it? You're not cheating, but you're just getting
Yep.
better and better at your craft. It's like changing from like a hammer with a really small head to a hammer with a massive head. Like you're gonna hit
Right.
it more times than not.
Yep, and again, don't rely on it as an exclusive resource. We had a client that did that with a few of their category pages. They just literally went out to ChatGPT and they said, rewrite this category to be more helpful and whatever, and they just dropped that content in verbatim, and they saw like a 20% drop in performance for that page, and they had to revert after a couple weeks. Like, yeah, don't do
Yeah,
that. That's not, this isn't a replacement for what we're doing. This is an enhancement
correct.
to our process to speed things along. And you could easily do some keyword research using Google Keyword Planner, free tools, or paid tools like SEMrush or Conductor, and then jump back into Bard and ChatGPT and say, help me build a silo of supportive content underneath a taxonomy. I did this for a lawyer who works on truck accidents the other day, and I said, build me a list of supportive pages underneath my truck accident lawyer page to provide more helpful information about what to do after a car accident. And it gave me 24 really good
Mm,
topics, that were great. And they incorporated the keywords, that I found from the keyword planner, which took 5 minutes to pull.
mhm.
And now I've got, so much more supportive content underneath that truck accident lawyer silo that there's no way they're not going to look at that page as being more helpful or more authoritative based on just having that supportive, content underneath it.
Yeah.
So super easy to do and took, just a couple minutes.
I want to bring up the detection of AI content with Google or Bard and all that sort of stuff. And I think
Hmm.
a lot of like, I know that when people are looking to buy businesses, because that's what we do, we help people buy businesses, we're detecting,
Right.
we're looking for AI content. That's too, most of it's written by a,
Yeah.
AI generator versus it's been touched up and worked with a human. And then there's also the question around how accurate are those tools in detecting. And there's also around the question around Google.
False positives.
Yeah, exactly. There's that, and then how Google will respond to that type of content that is clearly just written by AI.
Sure.
Like you said, that person who created those category pages just they lost a lot of traffic because straight up.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on?
There's 2 posts,
Yeah.
right? Oh, sorry. Go
So,
ahead.
what's your thoughts on the detection and how? I mean, we can only this might
Sure.
be speculation.
Oh, I'd like to start with the guideline first.
Yeah.
I think that they put out 2 posts. First one was specifically around the use of AI at scale. They
Yeah.
said, please don't just use artificial intelligence to deploy thousands of pages of content. They made that blatantly clear. They want you to do that. And then a couple weeks later, they did a post that said, we love AI, and we encourage the use of it. And you could absolutely, write content and do things with it. We don't have anything. We're not going to penalize you for
Mm.
that. But they did make it clear in the first statement that if you try to do it at scale as your primary means of trying to game search rankings, like, hey, I can just create a bunch of keyword rich pages and game the search results. That stopped working in 2011 with the Panda update,
Yeah,
right? People just buying content through content
yeah,
selling
yeah.
providers, and some of them were extortioning people for their content at one point too, if you remember
Mm,
that, and they got sued
mm,
for it. But I agree. I think that's where we start. And then the second point is looking at the detection piece. And what was funny to me was when I think it was in February, when the whole sort of ChatGPT just blew up, and hundreds of sites like Jaspers and similar type products that you can create content now through
mm.
automation, just hundreds of them just all over the place. And now here in May, right, and at the end of April, it's hundreds of AI detection software programs are coming out. It's so hilarious to watch how people try to monetize and capitalize on the changes and trends that are happening in search more than ever because of AI. um, I've been using, and this is, we're kind of loyal to them right now, even though there are a lot of these false positive issues. But we've been using
Mm,
Originality
mm,
AI. There's also Right, and what was the other one that some folks are using? There's a lot of these different tools. There's one that I've been in talks with the folks that have Originality AI because I teach, and I'd say about 15% of my students now are submitting assignments where it's essay driven, and 15% of them are using AI to do their essays, and I've got to kick them back. And they can't just expel every student that does it,
mm.
so they've got to figure out a way to manage it right now, and from the education side. So I reached out and they said, yeah, there's a site with a partner we're working with called Past.io or something like that. Past, Passed, and they're supposed to be helping teachers, to see if their students are using AI on their assignments instead of writing them from themselves. So my challenge with Originality AI was that, yeah, I would get a lot of these weird false positives. Instead of getting red and green, I'm getting weird yellow, even though it's saying 50% AI and 50% original content. And so what I'm asking students to do, and I hate that I have to do this, but I have to ask them, please make sure that you've ran your content through an AI originality tool, right, or an AI detection tool, because I'm using them. And if I see anything that looks suspicious, I'm going to ask you to redo it. And I know in some cases you've written it from scratch, and you feel like this is unfair. And I'm sorry, but this is the changing world of what we're having to work with. And a lot of what I'm looking for is original content. So maybe you did handwrite it, but you didn't put enough effort and creativity into it that these detection tools are finding it to be original content. So really get creative, put your voice on it, get weird, get silly, get
Get
funny,
crazy.
get
Yeah,
original, get controversial. That's the way that you're going to pass these originality tests, these AI testing tools, is by just being
yeah,
real. Um, but it sucks. You're right. It's not fair to students. It's not fair to content creators. It's not fair to the folks that are getting banned from Reddit for doing original designs in Photoshop that are getting
mm,
flagged as Mind Journey stuff,
mm.
right? So it's an unfair world for a lot of creators. But you've got to adapt. You've got to run your stuff through those tools now to make sure that the world knows that you created it, and that might require you thinking a little bit out of the box and changing your original idea of what you wanted to create. But that's the way of the world right
Yeah.
now. It might change later, but if you want to adapt, that's what you have to do.
Well, it's just, I guess that's the good, one good thing about AI is it's forcing us as humans to create better content,
Yeah.
right? Like
Isn't that
it's
amazing? That's what
great.
I'm telling you. It's an exciting time in our world, in our
Yeah.
industry. Um, you
Yeah.
know, it's really going to challenge us as individuals to be individuals in a world that's becoming standardized and
Yeah.
unoriginal.
And
And
yeah, exactly. It's so cool. It's so cool. I find it would be hard to get my emails detected as AI content in because that's right. You just got to make it. You got to make your content so damn engaging, so good, so out of the box.
oh
It's
yeah,
really out of the box, isn't it? It's because AI is very linear in how it would write a story. If you asked
Right.
it to write a story, it'd be like I asked when you ask it to write a story, it says once upon a time. Most of the time, if you don't have any good prompt engineering at the start, it's going to start the story once upon a
Uh-huh.
time.
It's fun though. We did one where we said Siri and Alexa are Romeo and Juliet. Rewrite the Romeo and Juliet story where it's Siri and
Oh,
Alexa, and it's fun the way that you can play with the technology to create really kind of neat
mm,
scenarios, and then have some fun with it. So I think there's a lot that we can do um, that is helpful, that is useful, that's usable, that won't affect organic traffic or doesn't have any impact on it, such as using it to help write a resume, using it for content editing. I'm writing my next book right now. I wrote a textbook called SEO Strategy and Skills, and I didn't have any sort of AI to help. I had to handwrite that stuff and get yelled at by an editor, because I'm not that great of a writer. I'm really good at what I do, but writing hasn't really been a thing that I'm a master
mm,
in. But now, thanks to AI, I can send it through AI tools and say, please give suggestions, feedback, and editing on this content,
yeah.
sort of like the Hemingway app and Grammarly would do, but also in a way that that can help me look a little bit more original and make sure that I'm explaining things that make
Mm.
sense. So, and AI does a great job of that, and it's still my content. They're just giving me editorial feedback without me having to pay for an
Yeah, I
editor.
love it. I love it. So, how Google reacts to all of this is going to be fascinating, and I think they're going to
Yeah.
what they're doing or what they will do. My assumption is that they're going to do what's best for humans because humans are the ones that are using their platform, and that's where they make their money from us and our eyeballs looking at ads and whatnot. uh, So what's interesting is, and I feel that when you said, using AI to create content at scale, Google will detect, all right, you've just posted 2,000 articles this week. That's not
Hmm.
natural. I'm sure there's going to
Right.
be some, this is an assumption by me, that they will penalize a site like that. How else do you see, like, I would like to highlight how else you would believe that Google could penalize people or hurt sites for using AI
Sure.
if they're trying to play a game against their Google partner or their partner being Google.
I think we're already, yeah, I think we're already seeing that.
Yeah.
I think with the latest review, kind of a review update, I don't know what you want to call it, but with their latest updates, they're really trying to give sites that have real user feedback and social
Mm,
proof a little bit more
mm,
credibility. We see that with some of our restaurant chains where we've got location pages that were appearing pretty prominently, and then after this big update, we're seeing the delivery service providers and review websites starting to flank us on many queries simply because they have ratings and reviews and unique content that's not static the way that some of our location pages
mm,
are. So I kind of feel like how they're going to detect it. Well, we have to go back to sort of the three basics of SEO, right? Is our content the most unique, original, and helpful, right? And how do we determine whether it is or not? It's not going to be words and H2 tags and keywords tied into paragraphs and entities and topics that we research. Those are going to help us get indexed and shown for those keywords to see if we're going to be a good search result. But that's not ultimately what's going to keep us sticking at the top of the search results. But that's paramount, right? We're going to do our keyword research. We're going to do our entity analysis. We're going to think about the ways that we can create the most helpful, unique page. Second, we're going to look at ways that we can get other websites to want to share and talk about us and maybe even link to us, hopefully organically, because we've got so much great supportive content underneath that silo below that lower funnel page and upper funnel content that everybody finds to be helpful and linkable and shareable and mentionable. And third, we're going to be paying attention to our search behavior signals and how people interact with our listings. At the moment, while it's still blue links and black text and some image and video carousels, the way that we do that is through using structured markup to mark up our images so they become image thumbnails, to mark up our FAQs so that we get 2 questions under our results, to mark up our ratings and reviews that we're going to be adding to all of our product pages now, especially after this last update, so that we have stars in the search results. It's going to be making sure that our listing is the most compelling, that stands out in the search results and gets clicked on. So the way that I think AI plays into that is we look at kind of the big picture of things, is AI is going to give you a base of text, that If you try to scale it across millions of pages, Google's going to see, hey, you've got artificially intelligent driven language, large language model driven content, but I don't see anything original in that content as it relates to a customer testimony, a customer rating, an expert review of the page, an image or a video that was created by your company and uploaded that's not already in the binary of my database somewhere. It's not a stock image, it's real helpful, unique
Mm,
information. And I don't see a pattern of, over time, more and more websites linking to and sharing and curating and syndicating some of the content that they found, or curating that content on their own pages over time. I feel like you've just dumped some content on there. I've watched it appear in my search results. I've seen people click it, not be very interested in it, and come back and choose a final URL that wasn't you. And I'm going to infer that that content wasn't very helpful. This isn't anything
yeah.
new. If you had a directory 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and you had empty categories where people got to a page because you haven't fully populated your database yet, and 900 of your 1,000 pages you deployed were empty, people click back, they choose a different result, and over time Google says, maybe this website isn't as helpful as I first thought it was, because it had all these great URLs with great optimized titles, descriptions, and H1 tags. But eventually it figured out, through watching how people interact with that listing in the search results, that that website wasn't very helpful. And just like you're seeing in all the posts that people are sharing now, is this massive decline. That decline isn't because they're crawling your page and finding that content, like they warned you about in that initial warning. It's because they're watching the user behavior of the user going back and saying, yeah, this obviously wasn't as unique and original and helpful as some of the other pages that have more rich media and more compelling expert reviewed type content. So I think that's the mindset I'd love to see digital marketers think about as they think about scaling with
Mm,
AI. Is that mindset of, we're creating a directory with thousands of pages in it, and if every page isn't the most helpful page and the most original and unique and media rich page with all the great markup to help define the meaning of words, like
mm,
schema.org/thing, where we talk about this page is about this, or it mentions this topic, and we refer to Wikipedia on what that is. If we're not considering all those things and we're just deploying at scale, they're going to look at their click-through rates and the stay rates of what happens to users, and they're going to go, yeah, overall this site isn't very helpful, so maybe I'll stop showing it as often in my search results.
mm,
So us as website builders, we stop deploying content at scale, and we work on one page at a time to make sure every single page is as amazing and as optimized and as helpful and as expert reviewed and as markup and schema rich as it possibly can be before we move to the next page. And that's the way we've always done things as Whitehead
yeah.
SEOs, and that hasn't changed since the directory days.
I love it. Absolutely love it. It just comes back to quality over quantity. And when I look at businesses for sale, people submit their businesses to us to look at their due diligence, and we review it. And I was on a coaching call with somebody just today, and he had a couple of businesses. We went and looked at the listings and stuff like that. And there was one business that had 800 posts, and it had like a domain rating and a domain authority score, and it was like around.
I never look at any of that stuff. Do you really look at all those
Yeah,
metrics? I don't
I
pay
look at the
attention to any of it.
I look at the metrics, and then I tell people to go look at the quality of the content, because typically the metrics are going to tell me
Yeah.
what the quality of the content's like anyway. So I look at
I don't know. I feel like those metrics can be manipulated quite a bit by SEO. So I really I use my intuition when I look at a page, and I ask, is this a page that I feel is going to attract links of its own? Is this a page that I feel is really going to attract quality referral traffic? Is this a page that's likely to be seen by tens of thousands of people because it's on a news feed or a blog feed on a really trustworthy domain? Or is it just some little community submitted Forbes subdomain somewhere that someone's selling a link for $600, right? So for me, I'm a little bit more, and I guess I'm spoiled in that I work with larger
Mm.
brands and get to be a little bit more critical, whereas smaller brands are more shrapnel and just get whatever you can and sort them out later, right?
That's where it's at.
But
The people that are
yeah,
start. I'm in a fortunate position as well, where I can afford different size businesses than people starting out. But for people starting out, it's definitely a thing, and you've got something that's got a very small level of authority and lot of content, and it's just like how is this at all valuable. I mean, you got 800 pieces and you can barely get any traffic. So the content sucks. It just tells you that the whole site sucks. So go for
Mm-hmm.
something that's, then you look at something else that's got like 100 pages in its entirety, and it's got way more traffic comparing to this other one.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it comes back to quality, right?
A real easy thing you could do too is use a service like Amazon Mechanical Turk. Take one of your AI created pages, and ask maybe 200 users which of these pages is the most
Mm,
helpful. Don't tell them which one's yours, but give them the URL that ranks number 1 in the search results and number 2 in the search results, and then throw yours into the mix, and then ask them to look at all 3 pages and ask which page they would buy from, which page that they would, want to interact with, which page was the most helpful and why. And then
create the winning one.
what didn't they like about each page, and then go through and theme those 200 answers to, and run a pivot table to focus your time on the attributes that, the aggregate of your feedback, culminated to.
I love that process for content creation.
Oh yeah.
So cool. Yeah.
So nerdy, but yeah, it's
It's
fun.
nerdy, but that's what people are doing. That's what we need to do to create awesome value for
Sure.
for the internet. With like these AI tools and the way Google and Bard is heading, it's making the internet better,
Hmm.
and it's an
Yeah.
awesome thing, really.
I remember the first time we created it was about $5,000 page. We were working with an e-commerce brand that specializes in Rolex watches, and it was a consignment site, and they have to have a balance of buy and sell, right? If people aren't selling their watches to them, they have nothing to sell back to other
Gotcha.
people, and it was fun because when we started, the site was just nowhere to be found in search. It was brand new, and it was like, what if one day we could rank on the first page for Rolex watches? Wouldn't that be amazing? And I remember looking at the inbound marketing page at HubSpot as my sort of bar. This is the bar in terms of what great content looks like. It's got a lot of white space. It's simple to use. It's got all the different processes, and it kind of has the puzzle pieces that match everything up. And you can go back to archive.org to follow the history of that page in
Mhm.
HubSpot. Just search for inbound marketing and look at it, because that inspired the Rolex watches page that we created on this website. We put a very expensive high definition image as a hero. We introduced video into different tiles on the page, and images and tables of data that had pricing information, and lots of text in a way that flowed well and wasn't just there for SEO. It actually enhanced the page and the experience and the helpfulness of it. And when we got to the first page, I think it took almost 3.5, 4 years to get there. And it was like a $5,000 cost. That page generates millions of dollars of revenue.
Mm,
And I'm like, you look at the ROI on spending $5,000 for a page that generates millions of dollars of revenue to be I think at the time it was like number 4, number 5 for Rolex watches. That's amazing. So I don't know. I think you're right. I think if you really want to make the most out of SEO, spend as much as you can afford to make every page absolutely as original and helpful and unique. Look at the search results, study the pages that already rank, look at the attributes and the focal points and the type of media that's used. Use, a GPT for Sheets plugin in your Google Workspace, and pull in some entities from the search results that you want to incorporate into your outline of things that you're going to write about on that
mm,
page. I think there's a lot that you can do to invest in. One of our clients is a prominent name in housewares, and she was working on a particular product line that was around a type of winter jacket, and we have like 8 different documents in the page folder, and they're like, look, we just wanted an optimized page. What are all these documents? Well, one of them is the competitive analysis showing every single page that shows up in the search results and what their snippet looks like on mobile, since, by the way, 80% of your traffic's mobile, right? And here's what their snippets look like, and how we want to look. And here's a mock-up of what we want our snippet to look like if we're going to beat these other guys. Here's the HTML title, description. Here's the schema they used. We took all that insight and we started to create an outline of the content that we want to have on the
mm,
page based on the top performing pages. And then we did a off-page plan for this page. Then we did a technical plan for the markup that's going to be used, and the image dimensions and the formats like WebP, the alt attributes, the file names of images, all of those different technical attributes. Like, wow, this is a lot of work. This took you over 2 weeks to put together, and it was super expensive. And I'm like, yeah, but now you have the absolute ultimate product category for this particular fashion product, and it can't be beat. And if they take that and act on it and create that page, no one's ever going to unseed them or unroot them from that top listing, because they really took the time to invest in the research that went into the planning and the page itself, and the media that the competitors just won't put the time into in terms of photos and videos and expert reviewed content, right?
It comes back to, if you give me 6 hours to chop a tree down, spend 5 hours sharpening the axe, and actually pouring money into the resources
Love
of
it.
sharpening that axe, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, because in like my space here, where we talk about buying, most people are starting out, they're buying blogs, and they're learning from so many people out there, from YouTube videos and other podcasts, to go
Right.
at velocity and just create as much content as possible. And whereas if
Wrong
you've
mindset.
got a budget of, say, $10,000, spend that $10,000 on, why don't you spend,
Your main services
yeah,
page, your main category.
exactly at start at the top, and you know build out those to be amazing. And you get to the point where, like, a lot of bloggers are just like, I just want to create a lot of blogs and get a lot of blogs on the site. Why not, instead of creating 100 blogs, the same amount of money it would cost you to create 100 blogs, put that into 10
Yeah.
blogs and pour most of the money into competitive research, and have
Right.
less content that actually gets you more traffic and makes you more money. It's less to
Yep.
manage on your own damn site, right?
Uh-huh.
It's just,
And I remember when I was mentioning the SEO expert example, that site that I ranked for SEO expert had 5 pages on
yeah.
it. It was top 10, the number 10, top 10 SEO tips.com. If you go to archive.org and you want to look at those pages, it had 5 pages, and I ranked number 1 for SEO expert with it for 12 years, up until 2000, I don't know, 15, 16, something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it's about the quality, not the quantity, when it comes to content. And yeah, there's a lot that you can create as supportive content underneath the silo. Like I'd mentioned earlier, don't just put everything on the blog and isolate it in its own site structure and its own taxonomy. Nest that evergreen content underneath that lower funnel page that you want to rank, so that that page has enough supportive content to show Google that you're not only providing more helpful content, but you're also solving more problems that your customers might have and answering questions that they might have, whether you've sourced it from the search engine tool you're using, or enterprise tool like SEMrush's question filter, or Answer the Public, which Neil Patel purchased recently, or even his old tool Ubersuggest. Use those tools to get ideas for questions that people have about your product, and nest those underneath the category, underneath the main topic, underneath the services page, underneath the practice area page. Don't just throw it up as a blog post. By all means, if you want to create a blog about it, great, but canonicalize to that evergreen version of it. So the evergreen version is what shows up in search, what gets found, what gets linked to, because blogs eventually kind of fade away and get buried in the RSS feed. So use the blog for company news and seasonal things and things that are happening right now in your industry. Don't use the blog for evergreen content. By all means, curate it, your evergreen content with your blog if you want to, but make sure that really good, solid evergreen stuff stays as a page that supports your lower funnel content.
Oh, I love it.
That's the way we build silos and taxonomy.
I
Right?
love it. I love it. I had a friend who sold his business, and then the company that bought his business sort of did nothing really good with it for like a couple of years. And then
Okay.
he had the opportunity to buy it back from them, but said, look, I'll buy it back from you in equity, and you pay me a wage, and it worked out this really awesome deal. And they just spent a bunch of money on getting the whole site redesigned. And
Yeah.
he showed me the front page, and it was just like most recent on the front page. It was like really, really well laid out, but just had like most recent posts. And I said to him, look, dude, like, people don't care when you come to your homepage that they want to go to the most recent posts. They come into your page to find the best like help. So give them the best help with your best pages on the homepage.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that makes so much sense. So
Mm-hmm.
many like designers and stuff like
Yeah.
don't
100%.
actually understand that, right? And then that page authority, because you've got so
Right.
much authority going to that main domain, that page authority linking from that homepage to that other site, or that other page of yours has
Hmm.
that page that you've linked to has far more authority now because it's linked from the
Right.
homepage, right?
Yeah, and you can see that right in Google
Yeah,
Search Console. You can go straight to your links section within Google Search Console and see your most linked pages. And if your most linked pages aren't the super competitive keyword targeted pages that are on your
yeah.
website, then you might want to shift your internal linking strategy to focus on those. I'm with you 100%. Now we do still leverage the homepage as a tool when it comes to expediting ranking of content we want to appear with. An auto repair franchise, for example, they said, how do we get our new locations to rank faster when they do sign up with us and become a
Mm,
franchisee? How do we get them to start showing up, quickly? We said, well, let's link from the homepage to their location page so that they can pass that page rank as quickly as possible. And then once they're up there and they're in the top search results and the click through rates there, then we can rotate in another
I like
location.
it.
And that worked really well, and it works as a really good process. The first, it's funny, I have a client who every time they call troubleshooting a page, the first thing he says is, and yes, before you asked, I did link the homepage first. And so I always ask, did you link it to the homepage? So it's a kind of a neat little internal linking trick because most websites that link to you tend to link to your
Mhm,
homepage. So it carries the most page rank.
correct.
So kind of a neat little trick of the trade. But boy, we really broke out of AI,
We
didn't
did.
we?
Let's move. Let's move.
Best
Yeah,
practices for
people are
SEO.
going to kill me if I
SEO
don't
101.
stick on the AI route. So yeah, tell us how you see AI playing out in the next couple of years, um, with Bard and Bing, and how you think it will evolve for
Sure.
us. Yeah, and I know that some of this might be speculation. You might actually know things that
Right.
are actually going to happen, and it's not speculation. You can see a linear
Uh-huh.
path to it, but I think people
Sure.
are hungry to know.
I think movies have really been a prediction tool of where the world's going. They started with Star Trek and phones, and there were movies like Her, right, with talking to their operating system, via their
Mm,
Bluetooth, and conversational search and voice search. We've used that. In fact, it was 3 years ago now that we were really trying to push this thing we called VRUM, right? Voice readiness, mobile markup, and measurement as our focus of where we should put our time and energy. And then the pandemic hit, and the focus was stay alive, just keep the kitchen lights
yeah, yeah.
on. But voice isn't going anywhere, and there's still voice devices that are being purchased every day. People are getting Nest devices for their homes. They're using Siri. They're starting to use some of these Chat GPT
Mm,
plugins to be able to use it like a voice assistant and ask questions to it and get it. So I think the way AI is going to evolve how we search is now finally going to happen, where we're doing more voice queries than ever. I hope it happens that way, because that's a much easier way to search and get the answers you want. And if you didn't get the answer you're looking for, you're going to say, give me more
mm,
results. So I don't think it's something to worry about when it comes to, oh my God, our rankings are, number 9 right now. And now with the way that search has changed, we don't show up at all. Well, you still weren't showing up because no one's clicking on number 9 anyway. They're clicking on the top
mm,
results. And if they wanted more, they're going to ask voice search in the same way that they would have used scroll, to give them more results. So I don't feel like there's going to be this, oh my God, I disappeared because now we're in a voice search world. So I don't think that's something to worry about with AI. I also see that there's likely going to be a lot of websites that are going to help create ways to leverage AI in your business. I'm hoping to see this, and I'm hoping it's going to be affordable so that plumbers and florists and doctors can go to these websites and look at ways that they can leverage AI technology to improve and streamline and automate their businesses. And I hope to God that they're not going to be extortioning businesses by forcing them into their system of
yeah,
doing it, but instead giving them the tools they need that they can own and manage and run themselves without having to pay a recurring fee to have access to, so that those businesses can grow and improve. So I hope that communities evolve to help their industries, use the different AI tools to improve business and streamline things that a lot of us are spending redundant, exhausting, time-consuming things doing, so that we can focus our energy on what we do best in our business and worry less about repetitive tasks like writing 800 meta descriptions for all the different practice
yeah.
areas. So I think I think that's my hope. That's where we're going to go with AI, is that standards and processes and things are built so that, whatever industry you're in, you know where to go to get access to the techniques and the prompts to help improve your business. But unfortunately, just like we found with all of the different automate your content now tools, and then later uh, verify your content's not AI written tools, right? I hope that it doesn't become this big cesspool of pay for use tools for AI. I hope instead that we can be transparent and open up these tools so that we can just get better, as a world in making our businesses, more streamlined and more effective and more efficient.
Making our products and services more valuable, right, to others. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. Steve, thanks so much for coming on. Guys, if you haven't
Anytime.
checked out the first podcast that we did at 136, it is How to Double Your Traffic with SEO Steve. So many good things that we talked about. This is a very different episode, so I'm glad that you came on. Where can
Of
people?
course. Happy to do it.
Sorry.
Happy to
Yeah,
be
where
here.
can people find out more about you? Go to wiideman.com or
Sure. So yeah, well, gosh, we need to practice what we preach and get our new website launched. But no, I think the best way to find me is in any social network. I'm SEO Steve. Our team here, if you want us to take a look at a ranking issue you're having, we'd love to help. The industry in general. As a teacher, I love to just help people. So our tag is just Wiideman, Wiideman. We're everywhere. And I'm pretty comfortable. If you want to email me, I've got some folks that help me work through my emails. My email is just Steve, Steve, at Wiideman.com. Send your question, your idea, your concept. Send it over to me. I love to talk to people. I love to help, and wherever we can add some value and collaborate and support each other, I'm all about it. Let me know how I can support you.
love it. Thanks so much. Wiideman. It's Wiideman. I apologize.
Like
Yeah,
Wiideman. Yeah, right.
that's a good way to remember it.
Sure.
I apologize for incorrectly pronouncing it. Yeah.
No, you're fine.
Cool, guys. There'll be links to all of that in the show notes. I'm sure we're going to get you back on again, Steve. This is such an awesome chat. Yeah.
Anytime.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me.
Hey YouTube watcher, if you thought that video was good, you should check out this video here on the 2 best types of websites beginners should buy. Or check out my playlist on how I made my first 100K from buying websites and how to do due diligence. Check it out. It's an awesome playlist. You'll enjoy it.